Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement, and today we're talking about the James Bond film that isn't really a James Bond film, starring Sean Connery. It's Never Say Never Again. Never Say Never Again was directed by Irwin Kershner and written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. It's based on Thunderball by Ian Fleming, and it stars Sean Connery, Clarence Maria Brandauer, Barbara Carrier, and Kim Basinger. This James Bond film probably has the most interesting history out of any of the Bond films. The rights of the novel Thunderball are shared between Ian Fleming and Kevin McClory, who helped come up with the idea to the book. Now that in itself is a story where Fleming wrote it without him, and then there was a court case, and well, let's just say McClory got some of the rights, so he partially owns James Bond in that aspect. And ever since that Bond film came out way back in the 60s, Thunderball, McClory himself had been trying to make a movie, and well, he finally got one. Now, with that being said, this was not an Eon production. Therefore, if you buy the Bond collection like I have, Never Say Never Again is not in there. It's not part of the lineup. It essentially is a remake of Thunderball with some new stuff into it. So, and the Blu-ray release was super limited, so I do eventually want to get that film, and I'm probably going to have to get like a European version of it or something, because there's only so many copies, and now it's like $60 if you want to get it. So like, come on, MGM, give me another Blu-ray release, please. So Never Say Never Again is basically about an aging James Bond who must track down 2 stolen American nuclear warheads before they are detonated. And if that sounds familiar, well, because that's Thunderball. Never Say Never Again came out in 1983, the same year as Roger Moore's Octopussy James Bond film came out. It's Sean Connery's last go as James Bond, and the title is, well, named after what Sean Connery said after he did Diamonds Are Forever, which was that he was never again playing James Bond. So I kind of like that spin on it, but let's dive into a review of Never Say Never Again. Well, the first thing is obviously Sean Connery's back as James Bond, and he hasn't lost a step as that character. He's just as charismatic and entertaining as him as well. He doesn't look like he ever could have stopped playing James Bond. He's still in the physical shape where he looks like a spy. And the thing I like most about his character is it feels like the same Bond that we saw way before.
My name's Bond.
Oh, you're Mr. Bond. I believe I'm having you in half an hour.
Oh, splendid. Your room or mine?
It's classic Sean Connery James Bond, and it's nice to see him again, and that's one of the best things about this film. Seeing Sean Connery play a role that made him such a superstar, and definitely is his most iconic role ever. Now, I think we all know when Roger Moore took over the role as James Bond, the films kind of became a little bit more goofier, and you can definitely tell by the sheriff from Live and Let Die and the films, and then like one more film after that, where it's kind of more, not necessarily cartoonish, but a little bit more family-oriented. Not saying that the other ones weren't, but it's just more so. And the great thing about Never Say Never Again is it kind of takes us back to the more, not necessarily like bloody, super violent, but a little bit more how the original ones were, the first few Sean Connery ones. And that's what I like about Never Say Never Again. It gives us a break from the more cartoonish ones. And not saying Roger Moore was a bad Bond, and For Your Eyes Only tries to go back to those classic Bonds and feeling and theme-wise. And that's one of the great things about it, is in between all these Roger Moore, not necessarily bad Bonds, but goofy Bonds, we get a more, I don't know what's the right word, because I wouldn't say like gritty, but it's hard to say exactly the feeling, but you know what you're talking about when you see it. Now, like I've mentioned throughout this review, it is pretty much just Thunderball, because that's the only book McClory had the rights to make his own Bond film. So there are plenty of things in common with Thunderball, and honestly, Thunderball has never really been one of my favorite Bonds. I think it's probably one of my least favorite, just because it's slow, and the climax is just as slow as the rest of the movie. And I feel everything in Never Say Never Again that is similar with Thunderball, it's done way better in Never Say Never Again. The scene where James Bond is, attempted to be murdered at the training facility, whatever, the gym, whatever, it's so much better in Never Say Never Again.
Heavy, Mr. Bond?
I think if you've seen Thunderball, you know what I'm talking about. Some mysterious figure turns up. Sean Connery's like speed on this really weird thing that's just let's just say he tries to kill him in like a weird like way that would never ever work in a million years. Like you can't kill somebody like that.
Nice to have met you, Mr. Bond.
Hey, come on! Hey!
The way it's done in Never Say Never Again is 1,000 times better. He's trying to kill him on the bench press, trying to drop the bar on him. Just a really great scene, so much better. And the climax to Never Say Never Again is 50 times better than Thunderball. Thunderball, like I said, is so slow and boring, and that's because it's underwater, where you can't do anything quick. It's an overcomplicated, overused, drug out way too long shot of a bunch of different people fighting underwater, shooting arrows at each other over and over again. It's just, and then sharks come in and start eating people. It's just like, why is this scene so long? Never Say Never Again is so much better. The underwater fight sequences are kept short, sweet, and they are action-packed. It's close-up fighting, not shooting arrows and doing this weird stuff. It's trying to pin people against rocks. And I also love the huge set piece at the end of Never Say Never Again. Instead of having this huge battle of armies underwater, it's at this grand set piece inside a cave, and it just looks beautiful. And I'm a sucker for these good bodies, like just gorgeous bodies of water. So I love that scene. It looks like, I wish I could go to like a water park and that be like the area you could go on. I'd look like a weirdo. I'd be trying to fight everybody just like James Bond does in Never Say Never Again. But I would just stand there and look up at it, and it'd just be like this spectacle in itself. I just love that set piece. It's so awesome. And there's a great action sequence. It's not underwater, so it's fast-paced, it's intense, and it's done much better than Thunderball. And speaking of that ending, it's better suspenseful, and like I said, I absolutely love that set piece. So I feel like in all those aspects, I kind of learned from the mistakes of Thunderball and kind of made it better. Of course, there's some other nods to other James Bond films throughout. But that's probably the things that stick out to me the most, that I enjoy looking back on the film the most. And another thing is Rowan Atkinson. He's most probably known for being, well, Mr. Bean. That's probably his most like classic, iconic, hilarious role. But he's also known as the spy Johnny English. Is this his origin story? I don't know. But yes, Rowan Atkinson is in this movie, so that's a funny little nod to it. This film has mixed reviews. Not a lot of people, well, some people like it, some people don't. Some people think Thunderball is better. To me, I just think this is where this movie takes place in the James Bond story. It was a great break from what we were currently getting at James Bond, kind of mixing it up a bit. It didn't make as much money as Roger Moore's, but the opening weekend, I believe, was the highest grossing Bond film at the time. I just think this movie is super fun. Like I said, I love the set pieces. Sean Connery is great. Back again. He's great with his quips, his one-liners. It's a fantastic film, and everyone else is great in it. Some of the character designs are a little bit better in Thunderball, like the main villain with the eye patch. He looks a little bit more menacing. But I think beyond that, everything that Never Say Never Again does that Thunderball did is like way better. And I think it's just a really enjoyable movie. I wish I could get a release of it on Blu-ray. I wish it was in that collection, because I really did enjoy Never Say Never Again. I think it's a super underrated Bond film, and I don't think it gets the love it deserves because of the fact that it isn't part of the Eon production lineup. But what are you gonna do? At least Sean Connery got to play Bond one more time. And it's funny, he's younger than Roger Moore, but this story is about an aging James Bond, like coming back and showing that he still has what it takes. So, you know, like, I don't know. But it is a great Bond film nonetheless. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments below what you thought. Where does it rank on your favorite Bond films? Do you think it's better than Thunderball? I personally like it a lot better than Thunderball. And if you haven't seen it, definitely do check it out. It is a really underrated Bond film. It's got suspense, it's got action, it's got hilarious moments. Rowan Atkinson, I mean, if you're a fan of him, check it out. But anyway, guys, that's my review for Never Say Never Again. The forgotten Bond film, possibly, I would say, besides the Casino Royales from like the 50s. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time in Our Brains Basement.